Am I upset when it comes to Quant? Because it's easy, I think, for me to feel frustrated about this. Quant is still below $70, hasn't been doing the best at all as of late, and people seem to think that, oh, there's no activity when it comes to Quant. But that's where I disagree, and long story short, I'm not upset despite all of this. And let me explain why in today's video, even though nothing I say is financial advice, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. This is just my outlook, review, and perspective when it comes to this. We have to consider, for the people out there that have been saying that Quant has been doing so bad as of late, we just have to let this sink in. The price charts haven't been doing the best, but actually Quant not too long ago went live with the mainnet when it comes to Fusion Rollup, which allegedly is the world's very first ever multi-ledger rollup connecting a grand total, at the time, 74 blockchain networks in one unified environment, which was built specifically for institutions. One thing we also do know for sure, though, is that institutional adoption at times could take quite a while. So what they're doing right there is for the long term. It's not for the short term, it's not for the medium term, and the market isn't doing the best anyways as of right now. So it's not like that is going to really impact Quant in any sort of significant way in terms of the price charts. It clearly didn't, but it's laying down the groundwork, in my opinion. It's really allowing for Quant to improve fundamentally, and I think if anything, through Fusion Rollup, it makes it so that Quant arguably is the best it's ever been doing fundamentally. I know it's pretty surprising hearing that, especially in 2026 when the price isn't doing the best, but we have to consider, I didn't see Fusion Rollup in terms of the mainnet in 2025 or in 2024. I just didn't see it. I see it now though. So that's the thing. When it comes to Quant, there's sometimes a little bit more than meets the eye, in my opinion, alongside with a bunch of other projects too. A lot of them are not doing the best, but people oftentimes assume that, oh, that means they're doing so bad fundamentally. However, that's not always the case. And if we take a look at it, keep in mind, Quant, in terms of its supply, is actually quite low, relatively speaking. This is something that people don't really consider, but it's something that I kind of consider. Now I get it, it's all relative. I could think it's low. Some people out there may think it's not low. But I just want to do this in a more mathematical approach, right? I'm just going to compare it to literally the most famous project that we have as of right now when it comes to the space, which is Bitcoin. We take a look at Bitcoin, what's the maximum supply? 21 million, right? But if we take a look at Quant, maximum supply, around 14.8 million, over 5 million less than Bitcoin. That's the thing in terms of the maximum supply. I think sometimes people don't consider that. But we have to consider again that Quant recently launched something like Fusion Rollup when it comes to the mainnet. So they're improving by quite a lot, and the supply isn't even that much to begin with, relatively speaking. The way you take a look at Quant launching Fusion Rollup in terms of the mainnet this year, it's like me watching the World Cup. Now, typically I don't watch soccer, or should I say football, but I do watch the World Cup because I find it very interesting and I find it very fantastic. Now, here's the thing. When I'm watching the World Cup, I sometimes think to myself, these individuals, they put in the work, they put in that effort years ago, right? They've been training for years. And when it comes to Quant, what they're doing as of right now, for instance, in the case of launching Fusion Rollup, that's like putting in the foundation. That's like putting in the work. So then it matters later on. It's like, for instance, these athletes who are in the World Cup, they put in all that effort years ago, and it's kind of showcasing itself as of right now. So it's a little bit no different here. When it comes to, in the case of Quant, they're doing all that groundwork. So if they one day do have their sort of quote unquote World Cup moment, right? If let's say there's a hypothetical altcoin season, or if let's say there's a big change in market sentiment, all the work that Quant put in, it's going to showcase itself maybe later. It may not showcase it as of right now, but it could showcase it later. It's like, for instance, the people who are playing in the World Cup, they put in all those years of training, of being in the gym, practicing, but it's showcasing it as of right now on the world stage. Now, it didn't showcase it instantly when they were training in some cases, but it's showcasing itself as of right now. So that's the thing. I think sometimes people don't consider that when it comes to Quant. A project, it still has to put in that work. It still has to put in that effort, especially if the market isn't doing the best. But that's oftentimes what separates the good from the not so good projects, because the good ones, they continue to build, they continue on to thrive, they continue on to improve when the market isn't doing the best. And I'm seeing that when it comes to Quant. Some other projects out there don't want to do that, but I'm just seeing it here. So how can I be upset? The project is still trying, it's still improving. So again, what reason do I have to be upset? And here's the thing, people like to say, well, you could be upset because the price charts are low. Now, that's going to be dependent on a case-by-case basis, though, because not every single person out there is going to be upset at low prices. That's just not how it works. Like, some people out there are actually quite happy seeing things low, which may seem counterintuitive, but if I think about it, just logically speaking, if they walk inside a store, like let's say in real life, if they see a discount, some people out there are actually happy when it comes to that. So it's a little bit no different here, I suppose. It depends, right? I mean, I can either find it upsetting or I don't find it upsetting, but I just don't find it upsetting here when it comes to seeing the price chart at below $70. If we take a look at it, what is the all-time high when it comes to Quant? It's around $430. To be a little bit more specific, it's actually $428, but just for simplicity's sake, around $430, right? Now, if we take a look at it, we're around 7 times lower than that. The thing is this, people like to say, but if Quant just goes back to its all-time high, it's so boring though. Well, I disagree with that. Let's just let this sink in. Is Bitcoin 7 times lower approximately than its all-time high? No, it's not. And even if, let's say I don't want to take a look at it that far, let's just say I take a look at Quant back in December of 2024. So in December of 2024, it was at around $140. So we're over 2 times lower than that. The thing is this, if let's say Quant just goes back there, I get it. People like to say, wow, it seems so boring. But here's the thing. Bitcoin is around 2 times lower than its all-time high. But if Bitcoin were to go back there, a lot of people would think it's one of the greatest things of all time. So why would it be any different? Why would I think about it any different if, let's say, Quant were to go back to around $140, which it is over 2 times lower than that as of right now? If I find that sort of hypothetical recovery in terms of percentage to be impressive in the case of Bitcoin, then I would find it no different here. That's the thing. It's like, for instance, take a look at this watch, right? This is the G-Shock GW5000HS, which I got from Japan, by the way, but I'm just saying, if let's say I woke up and I suddenly saw 2 of these watches suddenly, I'd be like, what the? I would think it's so impressive, right? But when it comes to this space, oftentimes people seem to think, oh, if something only moves around 2 times or 3 times, it's so boring. I completely disagree with that. Actually, personally for me, because if let's say gold, silver, or platinum or something like that did a movement of around 2 times, it would be considered so legendary. But suddenly, why is it bad when it comes to this space? I don't think about it that way. And especially when it comes to an altcoin, people like to say, oh, if it only does around a 2 times movement, it's so bad. I just don't agree with that. That's just my mindset. Keep in mind, we're talking about Quant here, a project with almost 170,000 holders. So nearly 250,000 individuals out there in this world are still holding this. Now, do all of them still like Quant? Who knows? Maybe some don't, maybe some do, but if I just take a look at it purely mathematically, around almost 170,000 people still hold Quant. Keep in mind as well, Quant's use case is actually not so bad, maybe, in my opinion. If we take a look at the Quant network, it's made up of the Overledger OS and the Overledger network. The Overledger network is made up of the Overledger OS users, but if we take a look at the Overledger OS, it allows something called a multi-chain application to be built. It's an application that is not built on only just one blockchain, it's actually built on top of multiple blockchains, hence the name multi-chain application. The cool thing about this is that, for instance, if I'm a developer, I can build an application that is taking advantage of the Bitcoin blockchain, but also at the same time, the Stellar blockchain. Could you imagine that? The Stellar blockchain is known for being really fast. The Bitcoin blockchain, historically, it's known for its security. So if we take a look at that right there, that would be a total game changer. Personally, at least that's the way I take a look at it. And when I take a look at the use case, when I take a look at Fusion Rollup launching this year in terms of the mainnet, when I take a look at the amount of holders when it comes to Quant being at almost 170,000, and also on top of that, if I'm taking a look at how Quant fundamentally hasn't regressed, if anything, it's actually became better fundamentally, if I consider just all of that, I wouldn't be upset, and I'm not upset. And again, seeing low prices, it's not something I'm against. It's actually my friend. Low prices, it's my friend. That's the way to take a look at it. So long story short, I'm not upset. And I'm just making this video because some people seem to think, oh, how can you not be upset when it comes to Quant? But again, I just listed my reasons, and that is just personally what I think. However, I'll be sure to make more updates when it comes to Quant in the future. If let's say they do update, or let's say they announce anything, I'll be sure to make a video on that. So I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very wonderful and fantastic day. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.